Hello and welcome to the popping box cards tutorial. What I want to do is just quickly show you how we put these cards together, and first of all assure you that they really are very simple. And they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and sometimes it's easier and nicer, I think, to follow instructions if they're given to you in video format. So that's what I'm going to do for you now. So let's just talk through a typical card that we could make off of this CD. Now what you will need to do is print out, well, first of all choose the card that you want and then print out the elements for it. In this case I've chosen the Oriental Nightingale card, and what I've done now is I've got print out two of these panels here, and this makes up the main box, and then just simply print out the page here which has got the mechanisms on. And just a word of warning at this stage, a word of caution, that these boxes are text editable, so before you print it out you should type in your greeting that you want to go on there. And in this instance you don't have to actually type or have the type on the box panels here if you don't want to. Simply highlight it and delete it, and you can just keep these as decorative if you want to. Alternatively, as I said, you could type a message in. And the same goes really for the fan here. On the back of each card we have a main menu, a main panel, sorry, and on that you get the opportunity to type in a greetings message if you want to, or you could pop another panel on there. It's up to you, but just to remind you, because you don't want to print this out, say whoops, print your greetings here, probably not quite what you want. So we print that out, type it up before you print. And finally, if you want to, you have the choice of the decoupage sheet here as well, that we can use. But we have the main image on here and the choice to decoupage the image if you want to. Sometimes you'll get just the main image on here because it's a little bit larger to fit other elements on, and the rest of the decoupage elements will either be some of them on the page or on alternative pages. So that's something to look out for. So we've got our choice, we've got the pages that we need to work with. Now I've printed out onto 250 GSM card here. That's for everything that we see. You can get away with a lighter card. 200 GSM is just about on the limit, and 200 below that we're really not going to have quite the same effect. So I'd look to 200 GSM, possibly 160 if you're really pushing it, but 250 is the ideal weight to use for this. Okay, so I've got that done. I've now created the panel here, and remember I printed off two of those. So the next thing to do now is just to cut this panel out, and in true style I've got my two that I've prepared here, and you can see they're all cut out ready to go. So a couple of points to note. I'll just remove one of those for you there. First of all of this makes up the box, and it's quite a clever way of doing it because it covers the inside panel and the flap comes out. Now because we're working with 250 GSM and we've got a panel that's going to fit in there, and this will all become apparent as we make it, a couple of little points to note. First of all, that these inner panels are slightly narrower than the main outside ones. This allows the box to open and close nicely. So when you cut it, you're going to notice that this line, there's a slight little corner here, and again here it just comes in slightly along this edge. It's not by much, it's only about 1 millimetre, but it's important that we allow for that if we want the box to open and close properly. Now they'll become much more apparent when you see it to cut out, but that's just to warn you there that that isn't for reason. That is for a reason rather, and that you do need to take care of that when you're cutting. So when you've done that, you've got two panels like this, and we can start. Now the first thing to do here is to score and cut the lines that we have here. Now I've got on here my fold lines, and I've kept them fairly light so it doesn't interfere or spoil the box when it's made up. So it's worth just checking where they are. And first of all we have a line that runs along the centre here, so with my scoring tool I'm going to pop in that line there, and then we have one that runs along the centre here, and then we also have a red line as well. So you can, if you want to, just go all the way along. It's up to you. You don't have, that way you know, or a little bit into the red, because you're going to cut that out. Come back and we've got one on the flap here. And finally we have a line that folds along here. Now sometimes that disappears because there's a little bit of a darker element, but you know that on all of the boxes here, if you just use that graphics as your guideline there, that will create a nice fold line for you. And last but not least is the red cut line here. Now with this cut line, we've got to note that we want to make this about 1 millimetre wide, so there's a gap as we've got here on each edge. We've got the same running in the middle, and then we can just run that line through here. In fact, you could almost line up, you wouldn't go too far wrong if you lined up sometimes with a gap in here, but that gap can vary from card to card. So the next thing to do now is just to cut along there. Now I would suggest cutting this with a craft knife, because I think you're going to have trouble with your scissors otherwise, but that again is entirely up to you. I'm going to make one cut this side of it and come all the way along, and then just move the ruler in by 1 millimetre. So you're cutting a little slither out from here, like so. If I just pick that up, you can see that comes to there, like so. And I actually find this easier if we just turn it over to pop it on the back there, and then you can just snip that away like so. And you can see quite clearly now I've got my white line there, which is about 1 millimetre in depth. So everything's ready to now fold. I've done the score line, so we'll fold this up, and that's the first panel prepared, ready for making up the box. I'm going to begin just with the top flaps here, and first of all with the score line, just gently fold it over and then crease it and then pull it back like so, and do the same again for this side. Just find that crease, pull it back, and that gives a sort of natural bend there. And then with here, these panels, just show you again, sometimes it helps to put your ruler in if you're finding the creasing a little bit difficult. You can, this is just a technique to show you can pop the ruler up, and that just helps bring that up if you want to, and that'll just fold like so. And you can see here, nice crisp fold lines, that's going nicely there. And last but not least, we then fold this in half again. I can show you there. And with that flap there, like so. So that's very, very simple. So everything just folds in on itself like so and like so. Now just a note here, once you've done this, this is designed to work nicely for you, but variations in folding, etc. Can have a little bit of a problem. So what we are going to note is that these flaps fold over like so, nice and easy. So when we glue them, that it's not catching. I can show you there, like so, so that they'll fold when the box is like that. If you do have problems with them touching there, just trim a little bit off along this edge here. That'll be absolutely fine. So the first thing to do now is to glue this. Now you can use any choices of glue that you like, a wet glue. I'm using a glue pen here, and I'm simply going to pop a little bit of glue along here like so, and fold this first flap, which is against the joining one here, the joining tab there, and just fold that one over like so. And that gives me my basic shape ready to work with. So what we're going to do is use this to join on with the other box as well. So I'm going to go on ahead now and do exactly the same as I've done here with the other panel. So I'm just going to fold and crease that and fold the first part over, and we'll end up with two panels that look like this. I've gone ahead and made up my second panel and again just glued it like we did the first one. So I've got my two identical panels here. The next thing to do is join these two together, and we use this flap here to join them initially, so it's there going on to that side there, like so. Now gluing this, it's quite important that you get a good strong bond and nice clean edge to it. So what I suggest is popping a little bit of paper underneath this end here, and then just masking off, as it were, this end here, and that just stops the glue from straying where it shouldn't. And then you've got a nice crisp edge there. We've got lots of glue. Again, you can use the wet glue, or in this instance I'm using the tape pen. And I find another handy hint that if you can use that sort of greased paper, sometimes stickers and things come on it, that helps to create a less gluey surface. So the next thing to do now is to join these two together. So I'll bring that one in. I find it easier to pop this one on top like so, and just offer it up and just gently rest it on there, and just trying by eye to make sure that everything along here looks nice and square, that we've got a good line. These boxes really are very forgiving. That's what I love about this. I've tried to design it so it's nice and easy to use, and if we just line that up nicely with the dotted lines there, press it down, we should be absolutely fine. And there we go, that's our two panels joined as one. So the next thing to do is just flip this over, and we can see we've got our tab there. So what I'm going to do now is just glue into here, and this panel will come over like so, and we can see that just hides that panel nicely. We can see our white lines here, and they just allow for the design to fold like so. They give us a little bit of play, otherwise it would be a little bit tight. Okay, so next what we've got to do is join this line here over onto this side here. So again, we need to glue that part, so I would suggest we turn it over, pop something underneath it, and put a mask just along the edge here. I mean, you might be quite accurate at gluing. I find if I'm using wet glue, I'm pretty good, but with these things, with the tape pens, which I absolutely love, it's sometimes you can't always tell where that's going. So it works by just masking it off. There we go. So that's nice and glued there. The next thing to do is just to pull the whole box together. So I'm going to now fold that flap down there and just fold this in half and offer that part, and it should just come over here like so and just stick along there, and that creates our box. And the next thing to do now is just to take this section here, pop a little bit of glue onto it on the inner section there, and we just feed that through the box like so. So just pop that panel through. You can see that coming through there. If I come to the top now, we can see we've got our box like so. And that's the main box made up. It's nice and simple to do. And I just sort of, at this stage, just give it a little bit of squash, make sure it's going to open and close properly. And there we go. That's our box. And as I said, nice and simple to make. Take your time, and it really is very, very simple. It's very forgiving, so if things don't quite line up, don't worry. When it comes together, it looks absolutely fine. Right, so the next thing to do is to work on the mechanism. So I'm going to cut that out, and we'll pop the mechanism on the inside of the box. Now I've cut out my two mechanisms, and again you can see the score lines here and the cut lines. So what I'm going to do is make up this one first, and then it's the same procedure, exactly the same for the small one. So the next thing to do is just to pop in your score lines, having cut it out, just using your scoring tool. Just run along and score the lines here. This will just help you fold it. And then this just folds in half first of all, along there like so, and then we just pull back these two flaps like that, and that's our basic shape. And we only at this stage glue the middle part here. So I'll go on and do that, put some of my glue on there, worked under quite a bit of pressure, this one, so a nice bit of glue will work well. And I haven't been the neatest of cutters here, can you see that? So at this point I'm just going to bring in my cutting mat and then just take a little bit off of there. You can just neaten it up. That's just for cosmetics. In reality this is sort of buried away, but it's nice to work neatly. And while I've got my cutting mat out now, I will now cut the red box and the line here. It's easier to do it when it's made up, I think, rather than afterwards. So it's simply a case, and I'm going to do this by freehand because it doesn't have to be that neat. This is where the elastic band is just going to slot in into that little box there. It's a double thickness of card, so take your time, cut that out, and it should hopefully just pop out there like so. And then this line again, just freehand, I'm just going to cut that down to there. This is what's going to allow the elastic band just to slot in, so it doesn't have to be too precise. And there we go, that's our basic mechanism done. And as I said, I'll do exactly the same now for this one here. Fold that up and repeat the process. When we've done that, we're ready to pop that into the box, and then I'll show you how we fit the elastic band. I've made up both my mechanisms. Just a word of caution here, just make sure that you've definitely cut through, because when it comes to fitting the elastic band you don't want to find that you haven't got a gap there. Sometimes a little bit of paper might just hold it back. Okay, with that done, the next stage is just to glue this, and I'll do the big panel first to show you. Again, I'm using my glue pen here, and it's quite important that we get it right over the edge, which is why, just get that one to work, I'm putting a little bit of paper, in this case an old envelope, under there, a little bit of recycling, and that's my panel there. And we're going to fit that in now with the red line. We can see here, that's where the elastic band goes in, and when we've got it made up, that's facing upwards, so gravity always keeps the elastic band just hanging down there. So the next thing to do is to place this into the box. Now what we're going to do is work upside down. So box goes down there, flap sitting there. This is my mechanism. I'm going to hold that back, and we must make sure that that line is now pointing downwards. That's pointing down towards the base, so it's upwards when we turn it over. Okay, so I'll just zoom in, just show you again. We make sure, just to reiterate that, we make sure that that red line is facing downwards when we pop it in. So I find it easier to hold the two flaps like this, offer it into the corner there, drop it down by a couple of millimeters, so we don't want it sticking up so that it'll hit the mechanism as it sits on. The mechanism hits the base, beyond the base, so it rocks it a little bit. So just pop it a couple of mil down, it's not that critical, then you know it's cleared, into the corner there, and that kind of slots nicely in. I push it in and then just carefully fold those two flaps back, make sure that it's sitting happily in there, and just close this up then, and a little bit of pressure on it just helps to glue it down. And then we open that up and we can see the mechanism sitting there. That's our first one, and that moves freely, and I'm going to do exactly the same over this side here with the little one. So same procedure, hold that back, just slot it into the corner there, and a couple of mil down just to make sure that it's not sitting proud, and again just give that a little bit of squeeze, and there we go. Both our mechanisms are sitting nicely now within the box, like so. And the next thing to do is fit our elastic band, and I've used a number 19 band here, and this is approximately 87 millimeters long. But I have found that in a box, and these are the best quality I could buy, they vary quite a bit, but not to worry, because this mechanism will allow really for any play within there. But I'll show you a little handy hint that we can do if your elastic band's a wee bit long. Now to fit it, first of all, I would always fit the smaller one there first, because it's a little bit trickier, and I just hold the elastic band like this and create a loop, and then just pop that over. I squeeze that apart there just to give me a little bit of line in, and just pull that up. It'll just slot like so, and we can see now the elastic band is just sitting within that first section there. And you don't have to bother about putting tape over there, because gravity will keep that down in the little box there. And now we're going to switch over and do the same here, and it's much easier to reach the big one. And again, just separating them slightly like so, just helps you pop the elastic band on there. Now if the elastic band's a little bit short, and this one's actually quite good, but what you can do if you want to is put a little bit of twist like this on it, and then I just pull that bit out to create my loop, pop my fingers in like this, and just push it in up the line, and boom, it's on there like so. And as I've said, if the elastic band's a little bit small, that'll just help bring a little bit of extra pop up to the mechanism, and there we go. It's a nice party trick, isn't it? So that then gives us our spring, and there's our box. It won't pop up like that out of the card. That's a bit of fun, but that just shows you how the mechanism works. And I said, you know, you can try an elastic band. If you find they are a little bit short, put a bit of twist on it to there. But actually, it's not too critical, because once it starts to pull, it creates the shape anyway. Okay, so that's our box. Now what we're ready to do is to make the actual display part for the card as well. So I'll go on and show you how we do that. We've got our two sections here, and this is the main panel, as you can see, and then we have the back panel here with our gluing spot on. So the next thing to do is just to glue these two together. Now the smaller one fits within that one, so I will just pop my glue around here quickly, and again I would suggest that you put a bit of paper underneath and glue right to the edge here, just to make a neater job and join of it all, and that will just marry up to this one here like so. Just pop that on. Again, you can trim this up afterwards, but if we can get it close enough, that's great, because we don't want to take too much off the sides if we can help it. And there we go. Remember that you need to put your greeting on, type it in, or just delete it altogether and use some of the other panels or work on that way. And so that's the front of our card there, that's the back. Now we do get a bit of white here. It's designed, and I think that just frames quite nicely what we've got here, but there's nothing to stop using your micro powders if you want to, or just put a little bit of colour into that if you so wish. But that is the back part of the card. I've tried to design some interesting shapes, so they kind of work against the front of the card as well. Okay, you'll notice that we have got our glue panel here in grey, and again I'm going to pop my glue on here, and that's to show you the area that you need to glue. Now this has to be quite strong, so I'll make sure it's nicely covered, because that holds the whole weight of the card in. Now at this point, if you want to, we can go ahead and decoupage. You could actually do it afterwards, and I'll show you, because it does sit beyond the box. So let's have a look. That's our box here, and this is the panel, and that glue panel will fit on to the larger panel in there, which holds the elastic band. It's designed so that will be to your right, as it were, as you look at it. So I'm going to pop that in down like so, just to show you. So that's going to slide in behind that, and it just roughly lines up, you can see there, and doesn't quite touch the elastic band. Just come out a millimetre or two, and then just press that onto there. If you just close it up, that will hold it into position. And I always just make sure everything's nice and square here before I really apply pressure. Down it goes. Just make sure everything's nice and square, and you can rub this down, and then that sits nicely and firmly onto the mechanism like so. Because when it pops up, you don't really see what's happening down there, and we get our pop-up mechanism. As I said, at this stage, if you want to you can decoupage or decoupage it up before you pop it in. It might be a wee bit easier. The designs work really nicely, and it's not necessary if you don't want to decoupage, but you certainly can. It does look very, very nice. I've just got some foam pads here, and that can just sort of go over, and I can just sort of build that up with my foam pads here, like so, and build up an image on the card. Just gives it that extra little bit of panache, as it were, and looks lovely. Okay, so that's the main card done there, and just another little couple of points to note at this stage. We can, if you want to, add the panels to the side, like so. We can put the birthday ones on. They can go really anywhere that you like, and they just should have a wee bit of a gap between them there just to help them work. So I've just got two here. Congratulations and best wishes. You could have these without anything on, or use some of the other coloured ones if you want to as well. Just glue those into position. Now these cards are great. They'll pop up and give you this lovely card, but to get them into the envelope and keep them there, what we suggest you do is just on one of the tabs here, just write pull here on it, and then what I've done is just used a paper clip and put a little bit of ribbon on the back of it there. Now this just helps you to keep it nice and flat in the envelope, so it's not kind of trying to, would help if I'd actually caught the back panel. Let's show you there. There we go. So it's a nice little touch here, and then you get this little bit of ribbon and that you can just sort of add to enhance the end part there, and then they can just pull that off, and then the whole card will spring up like so. So that can just come off and boom, and we've got this lovely pop-up card here, and that sits nice and firmly like so. It's a good sturdy card, and remember, as I said, we can pop the panels on here, but you can also decorate. What's so lovely about this card is you can go on and decorate it. You can pop your other images onto here. You can use any of your sort of nestabilities, anything along those lines, your spellbinder dies, anything like that can be cut out, put out and built up on the box as well if you so wish to. It's a good strong mechanism to work from here. Now there's one more mechanism that we can use, and you probably noticed this on the mechanisms page. I'll just show you what we do is cut it out, fold it, and we can add this if you want to. It's an optional extra. Again, just fold it, create the tabs, and it's quite a nice little fun thing that we can add to the card. So we pop that onto there. No gluing in half at this stage. We're just going to glue these tabs here, and I'll show you how that goes on. Now this little mechanism is a lovely little extra to the cards. What you do, as I said, we've cut it out, scored it, and put some glue on either end here. You can take a little bit more care than me, and then we offer this up into the card, and it just sits within the front panel here. Now I've popped on my, I'll just show you there, my paper clip just to hold it flat, and what we do is just line this centre line up here with the centre line of the card there, and just drop it down a couple of millimetres. If I just pick the card up here to show you, you can see on the inside, fingers and thumbs, I'm just going to make that crease line match with the card there and drop it down just by, oh, I don't know, about 8 mil or so. It's not critical, just so it's a little bit below the horizon line, as it were, and then that just sits in there so that it'll work properly. And we just press those two sides down. If I undo the card there, you can see it sitting at 90 degrees in the card there. So if you want to, you can do it that way. In fact, sometimes it's easier just to pop it in at 90 degrees like that. And then what it does is it just pings back out like so, and then folds flat with the card like that. Okay. Now I'm going to take this greeting here, happy birthday, that's off of there, and just have my imaginary centre line and just cut a little snip either side like so, and that now is just going to slot. It'll find its way naturally, so you don't have to be too accurate with your measuring. And we don't fold this, it just slots like so onto the card. Now the further away from the centre line that you put these, the further away from the card that message will sit. But that just sits now on there like so, and then that will just move with the card as it opens and closes like that. There's no necessity to glue this, but if you wanted to, you felt that you had a bigger one or you're building something up on it, just pop a little bit of tape along one side at the back here. Just join one bit with a little bit of tape so the other one's free to move, and then that'll move in and out. Just experiment with this. I'm going to go a couple of mil up there like so. Just slot that back in. Like that, and that's pretty firm like that. It kind of fits in nicely. So that slots in there like so, and just moves in and out with the card as well. And you've got other elements that you could use here. We've got the happy birthday tag here. We could slot that in if you wanted to. Or again, we could use it just to decorate the box with, if you so choose. But that's just another element that we can add to the card that's quite good fun. And I said if you wanted to pop money or something on there, you could. And it's what's quite nice is perhaps even when they're done with it, that just pops out the way like so. So there we go, that's our popping box card. It really is nice and simple to make. There's lots of straight lines to cut, straight lines to fold, so nothing too complicated. Even the decoupage is quite nice and simple. And remember that you've got the templates on this CD that you could make your own with, and you've got a different range of boxes as well, so you could again make different cards for yourself or just experiment with the ones that we've got here. So just summing up, nice and simple to make. 250 GSM card is recommended for the construction, and I would recommend a craft knife for cutting various elements out with, but you can use your scissors if you want to quite successfully. That's up to you. And glue wise, a good quality wet glue is absolutely fine, but it will take a lot longer in the processes than I've done using something like a tape pen here. Preference wise, for speed I use these. They are really strong, but at the end of the day the wet glue kind of wins out because it takes longer to work with, but it's absolutely rock solid when it's built. So the choice is yours on there. I would say use whatever you've got at hand. I said the cards are very, very forgiving in the making. If things don't quite line up properly, don't worry, the box will end up looking beautiful anyway. I find sometimes the way that I fold the lines, there's a little bit of a gap here, but do you know what, you just don't see that when the cards put together. They look beautiful. So enjoy this, enjoy making them, have fun. I think we've got great cards for you on here, and a lovely what I call canvas for you to work on here as well. That there's so many possibilities, which I love about this CD, and I love with these cards. So we could stick down our greetings messages here, we could build up elements. It's another area that you can work in and craft into, which is absolutely lovely. They fold flat for postage. Don't forget we've got our little clip here, like so, and that adds to the surprise. It's quite nice to pull it and have the cards spring up as well. So there we go. I hope you enjoy the CD, and I hope you absolutely enjoy making these cards and really get as much fun out of them as I know that I do making them. Take care. Bye bye.